He's from Venezuela. He came at the age of 13, and we're going to interview him. So, Luigi, what was your experience in Venezuela?
At the beginning it was great, but since Chavez came to power, it got worse. So my family and we decided to leave the country to get a better future in the U.S.
And what was happening in Venezuela at the time that you guys decided to leave?
Okay, first we had a restaurant in Venezuela. So most of the people think that when you have a property or a business, they think you have a lot of money. And the first thing that happened to us, to my family, was that my brother, they tried to kidnap my brother.
And how did you guys find out about that?
We found out thanks to a person that was close to the family that the kidnappers told that person to see if he can help out for the kidnap.
How did you handle the situation?
Well, at the beginning I was afraid, like I was little, but my father and my mom, they got very scared, so they decided to get out of the country.
Okay, so why Miami?
Well, first because it's close to Venezuela, like it's 2.5 hours in an airplane, so we think that our family that still live in Venezuela, it's easier for them to come and go, you know? And we have a few cousins here, and they help us out at the beginning here, and that's pretty much.
What experiences have your family over Venezuela gone through that they would want to stay or leave Venezuela?
Recently, 3 years ago, there were a group of robbers that sneak in my house where my grandfather lived, and they kidnapped my uncle, my grandmother, and my grandfather. They were asking for a quantity of a large amount of money. That they were trying to cut off my uncle's hand in order to put pressure on my grandma to give them the money. And it was really a really bad experience for my grandfather and my uncle.
So why didn't you guys call the cops?
Because at that moment there is no time to call the cops, because the cops are afraid of the robbers, because the robbers, they have more weapons, they're more prepared than the real cops. That's why Venezuela is Venezuela thanks to Chavez.
Okay. So why doesn't your family just leave?
Because we have my grandmother, like she's 94 years old. She doesn't want to leave the country. She lives with my grandmother, and it's hard for them to leave the country, like after you live there like 40 something years.
True.
Very hard, and they are used to it.
Well, that's good. Another thing, how is your experience here in Miami different than over Venezuela?
Well, at the beginning when I came here in 2002, it was hard for me because I was used in Venezuela to go to a private school where there were like 35 kids in one classroom, and here there are like 40 something, and the school is like humongous, like big, and there are like 3,000 students. In my school in Venezuela there were like 700 students.
Okay.
So also was hard for me the English part, like the language, because they put me in ESOL.
Okay, and how was your experience in ESOL?
Well, I got in ESOL 1, level 1, at the first year, in 8th grade, and then I passed to level 2, and then I got out in high school.
Okay.
The experience was great because we were surrounded by people like you that they don't know English, so you have to get used to the English easy. And the professors were great, but to be honest, you learn when you talk to the real people here in Miami in English. In ESOL, you're not going to learn anything like in order to talk. You can learn to write, you know what I'm saying? You know?
So that's how you learned English, just by talking around?
Yeah, and talking around, playing with some friends, meeting new people in school.
Okay, and how's your brother taking the whole new experience?
For him was easy because when we came here he was 6 years. So,
okay.
So which means he was little. He was like in developing his mind and everything. Like
he was in kindergarten?
Yeah, first grade, almost in kindergarten. So he learned English very fast because he was a kid. So like in this moment he preferred to be here than go to Venezuela.
So Luigi, considering the fact that you have your whole life here, if the government were like less corrupt and safer, to live in, would you consider going back to Venezuela?
Well, I don't think so, because after so many years making sacrifices here, I would not throw all those sacrifices away in order to go back and get used to it once again. I think it's kind of hard, so I don't think I'm going to go back for living.
Okay. Well, Luigi, it was a pleasure. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. And
Anytime, you're welcome.
hopefully we can do another interview.
Sure, why not?